our generation, I think it was the last generation, we used to have role models in the community. And I used to appreciate my English teacher at high school. And I always used to say, when I grow up, I want to be like prepared. Because I admired the way he was expressing himself in English. I admired the challenges that he went through in life. So I was modeling myself according to him. But these days, you don't get the Patrick Nguvanes of this world. All that you get these days, the role models in the community is the ones that are carrying firearms. It's the ones that are selling drugs in the community because they get to afford designer clothes, they get to drive expensive German vehicles, they get to build palaces here. So that child that is coming from a poor background, he gets to watch this person, and he will admire the person and think that what that person is doing is right. Then he will follow in the footsteps of that individual. And it is those youngsters that these people are able to recruit in the absence of interventions from government and the private sector. My name is Buyisile Martin Makasi. I was born in Gugulethu in 1971, and I grew up both in Gugulethu and in Nyanga. Then I went to UWC, and then I left the province for 4 years. I went to work in the Eastern Cape in a safety and security project, and then I came back and I worked for the Department of Community Safety for 5 months. And then I left them, I joined the Department of the Premier Western Cape, and I've been working in that department since then. Throughout my working experience, I started working in the field of safety and security. I started working for an NGO. We were focusing on ensuring that communities understand broadly the concept of community policing, and also assisting the community and the police to forge a very strong relationship. And then I moved to the Eastern Cape. I was working in a similar situation. It was a project which was to assist the Eastern Cape Police with dealing with the challenges of amalgamation of different police forces, and also to promote the concept of community policing. Because of the historical past of this country, that there was no relationship and there were trust issues between the community and the police. And then in 1994, the government decided to introduce the concept of community policing. The community policing model promotes a phenomenon that says communities need to be involved. Communities need also to understand that safety and security, it is also their responsibility. They need also to understand that in a community like Nyanga Police Precinct, where we have more than 100,000 people, and then you have about 328 to 378 police officers, in reality, those people will not be able to deal with the crime situation. Hence, you need the active involvement of the community. Community policing model has come up with a model of having a community policing forum, where you identify all the organizations that are in existence in that particular community, and then you bring this group of people together and they form a community policing forum. Then what is expected from them is for them to develop a community safety plan. And that community safety plan, it's going to influence how the police are developing their own internal operational plans that are going to be applied in terms of fighting crime in that particular area. The motivation for a community is that they are involved. They get to contribute in terms of how they are policed by the service, and they get also to have an opportunity to be able to identify service delivery gaps and they bring those issues to the attention of the police with a view of jointly working together to deal with those challenges, to ensure that at the end of the day they get the best service.
What is the relationship between the police and the forum? How much influence at the end of the day does the forum have over policing decisions? How do you build trust? How does that relationship work in Nyanga?
Look, I don't want to lie. I want to be honest. You see, there are power relations there. You will remember that the police are coming from a position of authority because they represent government. And then you've got the community that is merely representing the community needs and aspirations. Now, to bring these two groups together, it's not an easy task, because the community component of the Community Policing Forum relies heavily on the police in terms of resources like office to be able to function, resources to utilize telephones, transport if they want to go to community meetings. Even if they want to organize meetings, they are heavily relying on the police, because there is for the past 25 years, there's never been a dedicated budget to ensure that these community policing forums, they are functioning effectively and they maintain their character of being independent and not be seen as part of the establishment or part of the police. And unfortunately, because of those power relations, it's difficult for some CPFs to be able to exert influence on how the police station is managed, how the police are rendering services, because they don't really have the real power. Because you can't want to dictate terms when we are depending on the partner, because the police, they get to decide whether they accept the advice from the community or they ignore it, because nobody's going to do anything after all. If your police station police management is people that subscribe to participatory democracy and they respect the voice from other people, then things would be easier.
I'm just curious overall, what's your relationship with the police in general? Like just you individually, not the forum, just you individually with the police in Nyanga specifically. What's that relationship like?
No, I do have a very good and cordial relationship with them, because even if I'm the chairperson of the CPF, when I walk into the station, I don't expect to be treated differently. I expect to be treated just like any other ordinary citizen that can walk into that police station for services. So I've tried to maintain a very healthy relationship with the police, but I am not scared to confront them when I see that things are not done to the benefit of the community.
What is the number one issue that the police focus on, the biggest challenge they have? What would you say it is?
The biggest challenge in the Nyanga Police Precinct it's three. It's the murder, it's car hijacking, and also it's domestic violence, mainly sexual offenses. But in the past 2 financial years, Nyanga Police Station has been focusing on reducing murders. And if I recall, I think financial year 2018-2019, Nyanga managed to reduce the murders. As a result, it moved from position number 1 in the national list into position number 5. But that doesn't mean people have stopped killing each other. They are still killing each other, and the police are still trying very hard to maintain a very low number of people that are dying in the police precinct. The car hijacking, it's developing to be a problem because it involves very young people, and they are targeting certain group of people. They are targeting the drivers of the e-hailing services, and that is proving to be difficult, because even when these youngsters are arrested because of the law, the Child Act, they are underage, you cannot really send them to prison. You must find a place of safety, and everybody knows that those places of safety for juveniles, they are far in between. And then we have this challenge of sexual offenses where, because of the behavior of the citizens, then people end up being victims of rape, being victims of abuse. And the biggest challenge, our people, because of the stigma that is associated with those type of crimes, they tend not to want to report. And even if they have reported, there is a very disturbing trend in this community where people will want to discuss the perpetrator and the victim's family. They want to discuss and come to some sort of understanding, and then you'll find these people going to the police station to say, no, we are withdrawing this case because the families have met and we've agreed that there will be a penalty that must be paid by the perpetrator. And we are trying to do some awareness programs to try and discourage community members from taking that route, because that is not going to assist. Because when a person is sexually abused, that is a scare that is going to remain for all the individual's life, and the person is traumatized. So you might not know how that particular individual is going to react in terms of dealing with that trauma. And in the community's understanding and perspective, they always see the police as the failure. But to us, people that are working very closely with the police, we can argue that the failure is not only with the police. The failure is with the entire criminal justice system. And we don't really understand why our government, 25 years down the line, they are not even thinking or talking about it, that we need to relook at our criminal justice system, just to determine whether is it serving the interest of the citizens. If not, what needs to be done? And I think government is not opening up, or they don't seem to be leaning towards that direction, that we need to review the criminal justice system.
In that debate about the criminal justice system, what do you advocate for? Do you think there should be, that the system should orient itself more to treatment, less to punishment, or what do you think are the largest issues with the system as a whole?
You see, let me make a very simple example. A young person is arrested, maybe for shoplifting. He gets to be sentenced 2 years or 3 years, or he gets to be on trial for 2 years or 3 years. And then when a person comes out of prison, he's a different animal, very wild, very dangerous, and you don't know actually what happened when the person was in incarceration. So one of the things that we are saying is that the rehabilitation program of the Department of Correctional Services, it's failing communities, because most of these youngsters, when they come back from prison, they come back very wild and dangerous. It's very rare where you get an ex-convict that is really rehabilitated and able to showcase what he has learned when he was in prison, and paying back to a community. But now the system gets to release people that are more problematic back to the community. That's where we are saying the criminal justice system is failing.
So they come into prison one way, and the system makes them even crazier, more wild.
It makes them even more dangerous.
And why is that? What about prison? I mean, we can come to our own conclusions, but for the audience, what about prison makes the individual more violent, more wild, a bigger threat than when they came in?
Remember, in our prison, there is a culture of gangsterism. The numbers gangs, yes. And some of these youngsters, when they are arrested, they get to be recruited and baptized into these gangs. I think we have not, as a country, found a better way to clean our prison system. Our prison system needs to be cleaned, because the prison system is the one that is creating challenges even in the outside communities. People get killed outside here, and decisions to kill those people, they get taken inside prison. People get to be released on parole, and they come out, and when they are outside here, they tend to carry certain instructions that they were given inside when they were in prison. So we need to spend time and energy, resources, to look at how do we clean and change the environment of our prisoners so that it adopts and internalize the real true program of rehabilitation so that when people are released they get to be a different person than the person that was arrested.
Okay, no, that really makes sense. And what exactly is the impact of drugs and alcohol in the community? How does drug and alcohol addiction, or just the availability of it, how does it enable higher crime rates?
The South African government, they took a decision to do away with specialized units. Historically, we used to have a drug and narcotics unit. Those people were dealing strictly with drugs and narcotics, the movement of drugs in and out of the country, the circulation of drugs. They closed that unit, understandably, because there was a strong view that those people who were corrupt, even themselves, were also involved in the drug trade. But it's one thing to close something because it's tainted. But you need to have an alternative. Now, for too long, there was no alternative. Your drugs and narcotics that were coming in and out of the country, circulated in the communities, were policed by ordinary police. Now, there is a strong belief from the community that the same police are also corrupted. They are corrupted by the people that are involved in the underworld. Now, government needs to invest more in terms of doing a cleanup campaign internally in the police, in our judicial system, and in our prison system. Hence, you will find that every time I talk, I'm saying we need to relook at our criminal justice system, because the drug lords and the drug barons, they found a way of ensuring that they have people inside the system that they are controlling them, which makes it difficult for your ordinary police on the ground to be able to police the drugs and narcotics that are in circulation.
That's fascinating. And you said that that there's a problem with the whole criminal justice system, and the community likes to blame the police. But I am curious. It's clear that there is corruption within the police force, and where we hear about it a lot is with illegal firearms, that a lot of the weapons that gang members have, or a lot of the firearms that are used in violence, come from the police in some manner. Is that true? And kind of, can you tell us a little bit about that?
No, there was a case. There was a police colonel, I think it was Colonel Prinsloo. He was working in the National Registry of Firearms. He was arrested, he was sentenced to 18 years, but now he's out on parole, hiding in some farm somewhere. I think he's cooperating with the authorities. There is a local business person also still involved in that case. That is true. The guns are confiscated. Community members are asked to volunteer in terms of handing in illegal firearms, and then they get amnesty. But then the problem is within the National Firearms Registry, where the checks and balances were not tightened, the controls were not tightened. So the members there, led by Prinsloo, were able to take the same firearms that are handed in by community members back to the communities. Wow. Even firearms were stolen within the police, within the defense force. And those firearms were sold back into the community. So it's something that the police, the intelligence services, they must pay attention to, because that's a question, that's $1 million question that has been asked by communities. In an area like Nyanga, where you don't have any legal gun license shop, where do these youngsters get these firearms? And if they have the firearms, who supplies them with the ammunition? So these are the questions that we are having. Now, at least now we know that somewhere in the National Registry of the Firearms, there was this Prinsloo guy that was selling the weapons to the gangs, in particular here in the Cape Flats.
Transitioning a little bit, Nyanga does seem particularly violent, that there is just higher murder rates. Is there anything you can attribute to that?
Yes. Historically, Nyanga was engulfed in a lot of political violence. The Veduk versus the Comrades, that was 1986, which the biggest chunk of all Crossroads was burnt down. Areas like Portland, areas like Emavundleni, those areas were burnt down. Hence, today we have areas like Philippi Brown's Farm, Lower Crossroad, Miller's Camp. Those areas, they are as a result of the violence of 1986. Now, when we moved into a new dispensation, we had the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, but it has never been a broader psychosocial support system for victims of violence in this area in particular. So people grew up with anger. And we don't know whether that anger has manifested itself into people turning into be violent because of the past history and their experiences. Because things happened here. People were killed like flies. So youngsters get to witness those things. And if people are not getting the psychosocial support in terms of assisting them to deal with trauma, that trauma can influence that individual to think that being violent is the right thing to do.
Mm. And staying on that topic of youth, how do you prevent the youth of Crossroads from entering into a life of crime and gangsterism? One theory we've heard is actually from our friend Lutando, who works here. He easily could have entered into the life of gangsterism and crime. His brothers did, his friends did, but he managed to kind of get very involved with the church and the choir, and every day after school, he had something to do. So we've heard that just activity after school helps a lot. The same thing at Onesimo Soccer that we visited. But I'm curious, what do you think are the main solutions to preventing youth from choosing the option of violence and crime?
Generally, youth in these areas are they are neglected. There is no real investment in terms of youth development. Some of these youngsters, they attend schooling up until grade 12, and then after grade 12 they don't have other alternatives because parents can't afford to pay for tertiary education. Some of these youngsters, they drop out of school because there is no proper parental guidance. Some of these youngsters are products of single parents born out of very young teenage mothers and fathers, and there is no proper parental guidance from the parents. People leave as early as 4:30 in the morning, and then they come back in the evening around 7, around 8. Now, when the child is left alone, there is no guidance, there is no supervision for these hours. Now, that youngster is going to be easily recruited into getting into wrong things. And that, of course, is that if we were living in an ideal world, in an ideal situation, where we had a caring government, a government that is understanding the condition of its own citizens, maybe we will have programs that are in place so that if I leave school at 3:30, I know that from 3:30 to 6 in the evening, I'm engaged in a program, i.e. programs like the ones that are offered here at Ikamvala Bantwana. We need more of those programs because it is programs of this nature that are going to assist us in terms of ensuring that we keep these youngsters in the right track, we keep them focused, and we prioritize education. Because if we don't prioritize education and we don't provide enough resources to ensure that these children, they remain within the education system, until they reach a stage where they graduate and go and be employed, or they reach a stage where they get capacitated, developed, so that they can start their own small businesses or engage in productive programs. The situation is not going to change. We are very much aware that government cannot provide everything. Government cannot be everything. We also want to highlight the fact that people are making money out of these communities. There's malls here. Yeah. There's retail shops here. You can go and do your research there and ask those business people, what is their investment in terms of the social uplifting of these communities? None. The only thing that they do, they employ people. They are also they only interested in getting labor from these communities, but they are not investing in the areas themselves. So we expect them. We've allowed them into our areas, but we expect them to also contribute in ensuring that there's social upliftment that is going to assist the young people.
Wow, it's fascinating that you said that the businesses have a responsibility as well. How should they be investing in the community?
You can ask now young people here, do they understand what is the social responsibility programs of these business people? And none of them will be able to tell you, because they are not interested. I mean, I'll make it's not a good example, I don't like it. Yeah. Your city has banned. Yeah. You see how business community has come to the rescue of the student. Those few students there. Yeah. But tomorrow, if Crossroads, 100 shacks can bend down, yeah, I bet my last dollar you will not see those people coming in to support this community. So they are happy to receive from these communities, but they are not willing to give back to the communities.
So I'm curious then, whose role is it to encourage this? Should the local government say you can only set up business here if you spend this much money, or does it come from personal initiative? Where's the motivation? I
don't think they even have that discussion. It's not their interest. Their interest is to make money and live. I mean, if we can talk here, the liquor wholesalers on this road, Lenston Road, we've got about 17 liquor wholesalers. And those people don't stay in this area. They are just making money. They are sleeping somewhere comfortably. They are not even bothered by the fact that Nyanga gets to report 300 murders per annum. Yeah. To them, that is nothing. As long as the money keeps coming in, they are okay. Yeah. But they don't even ask themselves the question, what can we contribute to ensure that the Nyanga police are able to fight crime? We have all these big corporates here. We have a police station that is under-resourced. None of them has even said we can contribute maybe a 20,000 rand to ensure that it is social crime prevention that is happening in the area. Social crime prevention projects that are going to focus on young people. Nothing.
And my final two questions. The first one is, you work in the Premier office, you volunteer for the Community Police Forum. What motivates you to wake up every day and keep serving and trying to make your community better?
I think what motivates me is that, firstly, I believe that our people, they do have capacity. And they know exactly what they want. But they are not given a space, opportunity, and resources to be able to realize their dreams. So that motivates me, because I know whatever I'm doing, I'm not doing for my own benefit. I'm going to benefit the community of Nyanga. So the fact that I know that even if they are currently suffocating and frustrated, the will that they show, that they want to bring the necessary changes in their areas, that motivates me. And I know that if they stay on course, probably one day they'll be able to realize their dreams. So I just want to be part of that journey, to encourage them not to give up. They've traveled thus far, they can't tire now. Instead, they need to pick up their socks and start marching forward, because I can see that something ultimately is going to change in the area.
I think that's a great note to end on, but before we conclude, is there anything else that you'd like to add or would like to say to those who are listening?
No, the only thing that I would like to add is that we need more of young people like yourselves coming to our country, not waterfront and Table Mountain, but coming to the townships. Because when young people are engaging with other young people who are coming from a different world, it assists them to grow, it assists their brains to grow, and they begin to think broader than being held up in their current circumstances. Because they need to be told that don't allow the current circumstances to determine your future. You need to be able to say, how do I move from here to the next phase and to the phase that is ultimately going to deliver a better life for yourself? And having the programs of Ikamva Bantu as well is going to make young people also to understand that don't waste your time waiting for government. Don't depend on government. You've got eyes, you've got hands, you've got legs, you've got brain. Start doing things for yourself. Nobody is going to come and work on your own individual development. You are the one that must work on your own development, because you are the one that knows what is your destiny.
Wow. Well, Mr. Makasi, this is a wonderful conversation. I really want to thank you for joining us. We learned a lot, and we really appreciate your perspective on the issues we're facing here in Crossroads. So I just want to thank you again for joining us.
No, thank you. I also appreciate the fact that you extended an invitation to me, because people think that when we're volunteering in these community policing forum structures, it's because we've got a lot of time on our hands, so we don't know what to do with that time. They don't see that we want to ensure that there is change that is implemented in the community, so that our young people can live differently. Because it's not right. Our parents, they struggled. We are struggling. But we cannot allow our children and the future generations also to struggle. So I also thank you.